Hey guys, it's Alyson. So, funny story. I recorded this episode and then, finished it recording, went about my day, and then just sitting in the car of Target or whatever, checked my phone, and the news dropped! Coriolanus Snow has been casted for the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes movie. What the fudge? So Tom Blythe, who is known for the starring in the epic series, Billy the Kid, and also being in the Gilded Age, is playing Coriolanus Snow. So, I already posted a picture of him on the Instagram if you want to see it, but holy crap, I can't believe it. Like, the news just hit me out of nowhere, and I shit you not. Last night, my dad was watching Billy the Kid, and I walked in and I saw a little bit of the show. I'm like, oh, what you watching? I'm like, oh, cool, I saw him. And then, walked away left the room to go do whatever I was gonna do. But, oh my god! Little did I know I was watching Coriolanus Snow. So, yeah, this means, like, any day now, we could get more casting news. Like, we're gonna know who Lucy Gray and Sejanus are very soon. Holy shit. Anyway, letting you guys know in case you haven't heard yet. But yeah, I am currently freaking out right now, and enjoy the episode, guys. Oh, man. Hello everyone, and welcome to Bookish Babbles, the podcast where we reread our favorite books and chat about them. I'm your host Alyson, and without further ado, let's get started. Everyone, welcome to episode 15 of Bookish Babbles. Today we are talking about chapters 10 to 12 of The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins, and this is the beginning of part 2, The Games. A lot of exciting and intense things are happening, so I'm just gonna dive into it. So last week, Katniss earned the top training score by making a memorable impression on the game makers. Cinna makes Katniss a fire outfit for interview night. No, I will not stop making these puns. You can't stop me. And Peta makes a shocking declaration of love for Katniss. This week, Katniss nearly dies a couple times. A shocking betrayal happens? ? And the 74th Hunger Games have begun. So with all that being said, let's dive into chapter 10. So like I said earlier, we are officially on part 2, The Games, and chapter 10 picks up right where chapter 9 left off. It is seconds after Peta telling the audience that, the girl he has had a crush on for years is going into the arena with him. And it takes a minute for Katniss to process what he said, and once she realizes that Peta's talking about her, she is completely mortified, as anyone would be in this moment, I think. Like I struggle when someone does something as simple as tell me, oh, your hair looks nice today, like immediately on edge. I blurt out a thanks and then feel the urge to run away. Like I can't imagine someone full on declare love for me on national television. Like, it can't get any more public than that. And poor Katniss is realizing what Peta is saying while every camera is on her face. Like, there's obviously an awkward pause between Caesar and Peta, and the audience is immediately sympathetic toward Peta. So they wrap up the interview, Caesar wishing Peta luck. The roar of the crowd is deafening. It's clear that Peta has, overshadowed all the other interviews, which is good for him. Peta may not be the most powerful fighter when they're in the arena, but goddamn does he know how to win a crowd over. A skill that I feel is greatly underestimated. And that's another thing that I think people who have only seen the movies and maybe didn't watch them as obsessively as me missed about Peta. Because in the books, especially in Catching Fire and Mockingjay, they do take the time to emphasize how important that skill is, and the movies don't really touch on it. And completely random side note, but knowing that Snow is directly responsible for Lucy Gray disappearing makes me so freaking angry, because she could live to be still be alive during the present timeline, and she could have been a mentor, and we were all robbed of that. Unless, of course, she's, alive and going by a different name. Cough, cough, Greasy say. What? Who said that? Anyway. But anyway, since she disappeared when she was 16, that means District 12 tributes didn't have a mentor for years. Haymitch had to win without any help. Or was there anyone in charge of sending him sponsor gifts? Because, by the time he was in the top 5, surely someone would want to sponsor him. But anyway, had Lucy Gray, been allowed to live and be a mentor, Haymitch wouldn't have been alone for so many years dealing with, the raging PTSD from the games. And I feel like Lucy Gray and Peta would have gotten along great as mentor and mentee. And, because both of them understand the importance of presentation and are very skilled at getting crowds on their side. And we know from this series that as much as, Katniss and Haymitch butt heads, they are really similar people, and they understand each other on a level where they don't with most people. Like, for example, Katniss understanding the meaning behind each gift he sends her in the arena. And I feel like Peta and Lucy Gray could have potentially have had that kind of bond too, had she been around for them. Plus, just like how Peta probably reminds Corio of Sejanus on some level, he would also remind Lucy Gray of him too, and because Lucy Gray genuinely likes Sejanus. Anyway, that's enough of mourning my favorite ballad characters, and could just be me wanting to have my two favorite characters, Peta and Lucy Gray, get along. Anyway, I need to talk about what's happening in this current book. So Katniss and Peta are now the tragic star-crossed lovers that the Capitol audience won't be able to stop talking about, and Katniss is just pissed. When the anthem's done playing, the tributes file back into the training center, and Katniss makes sure that she isn't in the same elevator as Peta, and that she's the first to get back to their floor. Peta gets off of the next elevator, and Katniss immediately attacks him. Her reaction in the movie was tame, guys. There she only shoved him up against the wall and yelled at him. Here she slams her palm into his chest, which causes him to lose balance and crash into an urn filled with fake flowers, which I feel like is some kind of metaphor, but I can't think of a good one right now, so moving on. Katniss starts yelling at him for saying what he said on stage, and in walks in the adults to stop the disaster in front of them. Katniss also snaps at Haymitch, sure that the whole stunt Peta pulled on stage was his idea. And the conversation that follows pretty much plays out like it did in the movies. Haymitch calls Katniss a fool for not realizing that Peta did her a big favor. Katniss thinks Peta made her look weak, but he actually made her look desirable. Something Haymitch says that she can use all the help with, and that now the star-crossed lovers from District 12 are all anyone can talk about. And Katniss insists that they're not star-crossed lovers. Not yet, at least. Hee. And Haymitch reminds her it's a TV show. They're putting on a show. And now, thanks to Peta, she'll have even more sponsors. And Cinna takes Haymitch's side on the matter, telling Katniss, he's right. And Katniss then starts to calm down, but does say that she wished she had been told, what Peta was going to do beforehand, though Portia tells her that the reaction was perfect, since, had she known beforehand, it wouldn't have come off as real. And Peta also comments that she's probably just worried what her boyfriend will think about the whole thing, which naturally mortifies Katniss. And soon Katniss realizes that Haymitch was right, and Peta really did do her a big favor. Beforehand, she just came off as silly girl in a spinning, sparkly dress whose only real moment of substance was when she talked about Prim. but now Peta's made her an object of love, even a heartbreaker, since he claimed that lots of boys back home like her. And Katniss also starts feeling a little bit guilty because Peta basically guaranteed her sponsors, and she thanked him by giving him a bloody hand, which he has to leave in the middle of dinner at some point to get medical treatment for. And after dinner, they watch the recap of the interviews. And after that, it's time for bed and for Katniss and Peta to say goodbye to Effie and Haymitch, since they have to leave really early the next morning and won't be traveling with them. Effie starts off giving them a pretty decent goodbye. She thanks them for being the best tributes she's ever had the privilege to sponsor, and even sheds a few tears. But then she immediately follows that by saying, "I wouldn't be at all surprised if I finally get promoted to a decent district next year." She was almost there. So close. So close, Effie. But she still has some character development to go through. Effie kisses each of them on the cheek and hurries out. And Katniss notes that she's overcome either, with the emotional parting or just excited for her future life improvements. Then Peta asks Haymitch for final advice. And he tells them two things. One, when the gong sounds, to, get the hell out of there away from the bloodbath, to put as much distance between themselves and the other tributes as possible. And after that, to stay alive, which was the first piece of advice he ever gave them, but this time he isn't drunk and he isn't laughing. He's sober and dead serious. And like I said before, it's the most important piece of advice. Katniss even agrees, because what else is there to say? Katniss goes to her room and wishes she could see Lavinia one more time before taking off in the morning. One of the reasons being because she wants to learn her name, because at this point, Katniss doesn't know her name. I just call Lavinia by her name since it's easier than just saying redheaded Avox girl all the time. Katniss showers and scrubs all the makeup off her, though she does keep the flame designs on her nails. She wants it there as a way to remind herself of who she is to the audience, the girl on fire, and something to hold on to during the guaranteed horrible days to come. So just remember that while Katniss is going through all the crazy stuff in the arena and in hardcore survival mode, she has flame designs on nail polish on. I wish that detail could have been kept in the movie, but anyway. And Katniss really needs to sleep, but she can't. I remember having a hard time sleeping the night before, a big test or a final exam in school. I can only imagine the stress she is feeling right now. No wonder they can't sleep. She keeps imagining, what kind of environment she'll be thrown into. Desert, swamp, tundra. Tundra. The best she can hope for is trees so that they can offer places to hide and for food to find. Trees are common in arena since barren landscapes usually mean that the games will end quicker. And the capital, can't have that because watching children murder each other is their best form of entertainment. So they gotta prolong that shit as long as possible. So Katniss eventually gets so restless that she gets out of bed and makes her way up to the roof in order to get some air. She can hear some kind of commotion going on down in the city streets below, and she's not alone on the roof either. And this is, of course, Peta that's there too. And for reasons Katniss can't understand, she walks up to Peta to talk to him. They comment about the party going down below. At one point, Katniss even asks if they're in costumes, and Peta replies, "Who can tell?" And then a really significant conversation happens on page 141, so I'm going to read it for you guys. So it starts with Katniss saying, "All I can do is wonder about tomorrow," which is pointless, of course. In the light from below, I can see his face now, the awkward way he holds his bandaged hand. "I really am sorry about your hands." "It doesn't matter, Katniss," he says. "I've never been a contender in these games anyway." "That's no way to be thinking," I say. "Why not? It's true. My best hope is not to disgrace myself and—" He hesitates. "And what?" I say. "I don't know how to say it exactly, only I want to die as myself." "Does that make any sense?" he asks. I shake my head. How could he die as anyone but himself? I don't want them to change me in there, turn me into some kind of monster that I'm not. I bite my lip, feeling inferior. While I've been ruminating on the availability of trees, Peta has been struggling with how to maintain his identity, his purity of self. Do you mean you won't kill anyone, I ask? No, when the time comes, I'm sure I'll kill just like everybody else. I can't go down without a fight. Only I keep wishing I could think of some way to show the capital that they don't own me, that I'm more than just a piece in their game, says Peta. But you're not, I say. None of us are. That's how the games work. Okay, but within that framework, there's still you, there's still me, he insists. Don't you see? A little, only... No offense, but who cares, Peta, I say. I do. I mean, what else am I allowed to care about at this point? He asks angrily. He's locked those blue eyes on mine now, demanding an answer. I take a step back. Care about what Hamish said, about staying alive. Peta smiles at me and sad and mocking. Okay, thanks for the tip, sweetheart. It's like a slap in the face. His use of Hamish's patronizing endearment. Look, if you want to spend the last hours of your life planning some noble death in the arena, that's your choice. I want to spend mine in District 12. Wouldn't surprise me if you do, Peta says. Give my mother my best when you make it back, will you? Count on it, I say. Then I turn and leave the roof. So, I think this is probably the first time that we get the most honest looks into Peta's thoughts, or like the most, at least this is the most vulnerable he's been with Katniss so far. And that line where Peta says he's more than just a piece in their games is, I think, one of the most well-known lines in the book, and it's an important theme that we see throughout the whole series. The government that runs Panem does not care about its citizens. It will use people and dispose of them like once they're no longer useful, especially people from the districts. They will abuse as many of its citizens as it can in order to keep, the shitty system going. But Peta doesn't agree with that. And despite being good at playing the game, he hates the game. And he's right to, because it's very, very wrong. And that applies to the real world too, by the way. You are more than a cog in the machine. You inherently have worth as a person just by being who you are. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Anyway, Katniss doesn't appreciate Peta's words now, but she will later on. She goes back to her room and spends the rest of the night slipping in and out of sleep. She also imagines the cutting remarks she can make to Peta in the morning, since she really resents how high and mighty he was talking on the roof, and that she bets he'll turn into one of the raging beast tributes, like when they're in the arena. And we learned that a few years ago that there was a guy from District 6 named Titus who went savage and tried to eat the bodies of the tributes that he killed. The game makers had to stun him so they could, collect the bodies. And it's been speculated that the avalanche that killed him was designed by the game makers so that they could make sure the victor wasn't a cannibal, which is now the second time cannibalism has been brought up in this series. Why, Suzanne? Why? Also, how much do you want to bet that Corio was the one who told the game makers to kill that specific tribute? Because we know he's traumatized from when he was a child and saw one of his neighbors take the leg off a dead woman to have for dinner that night. Anyway, Katniss doesn't get to tell Peta any of her witty remarks in the morning because she doesn't see him in the morning. Instead, she's woken by Cinna, who takes her to the roof and, where the hovercraft is waiting to take them to the arena. And this is another detail from the book that I always forget about thanks to the movie, but each tribute travels to the arena on a private hovercraft with their stylist rather than with the other tributes in the same hovercraft. Because in the movie, we see Katniss in there get her tracker with some of the other tributes like Clove, Cato, and Rue, which has to be freaky and very uncomfortable. Just, awkwardly sitting in an enclosed space, and some of you are gonna be dead in like an hour. Real good time. Anyway, so Katniss gets her tracker because, gotta know where the tributes are at all times. We saw how messy that could get in the 10th Hunger Games when they couldn't track the tributes or even know if they were still alive. Then she and Cinna are led to a room where breakfast is waiting. Nice last meal. Katniss eats as much as she can since, it can only help. But she's so nervous she doesn't even really taste what she's eating. She could eat coal dust in the state she's in. Soon they arrive. Katniss and Cinna are lowered down into a tube underground into the catacombs of the arena and are directed to Katniss's launch room. Though in District 12 they called the launch room a stockyard. Everything is brand new since Katniss will be the first and only tribute to use this room. We've come a long way since, just using the same amphitheater for 10 years in a row and not cleaning it up afterward. Also, arenas are apparently popular vacation destinations for capital families. You can tour the catacombs, you can rewatch the games, visit the sites where the deaths took place. Nothing weird about that. Even participate in reenactments. Totally normal. Also, the food is supposed to be excellent. Anyway, Katniss showers and tries to keep her breakfast down. And I gotta say, Suzanne Collins is really good at making me feel anxious. Like, every time I read this scene, like, right before she goes into the arena, or just watch it in the movie, like, my stomach is in knots. So, well done, Suzanne. Cinna opens the package that has the outfit Katniss is going to wear in the arena. This is the one time he doesn't have control over what she'll wear. Simple 20 pants, light green blouse, brown belt, thin hooded black jacket, and boots similar to the ones Katniss wears at home. Cinna notes that the material in the jacket is designed to reflect body heat, so Katniss should expect some cold nights. This just goes to show like how tight the secret of the arenas are kept, because apart from the game makers, very few people know what kind of environment the tributes are going to be thrown into, which I guess makes sense because even if someone like the stylist knew, they could tip off a tribute and give them an unfair advantage. Then Cinna pulls out the gold Mockingjay pin. He found it on Katniss's green shirt from the train and held on to it this whole time. Though it's her district token, it still had to be cleared and it barely passed. Some apparently thought it could be used as a weapon, giving her an unfair advantage, but they still let it pass. Though Glimmer tried to sneak in a ring that would pop out a poisoned spike if you twist the gemstone, so that was naturally confiscated. And again, Suzanne shows just how good she is at creating tension, because moments pass and Katniss and Cinna just have to sit there while they wait for the call, and it's agonizing. Like, I remember reading this for the first time just hoping that this would all turn out to be just some sort of sick joke and Katniss, wouldn't have to fight to the death, because like I just wanted the tension to be over. But of course, that's not what happened, because then there would be no story if Katniss was just allowed to go home to her family and live happily ever after. No, we gotta suffer first. And there's nothing else for me to really say except to read the last bit of the chapter. Still clenching one of Cinna's hands, I walk over and stand on the circular metal plate. Remember what Haymitch said. Run, find water, the rest will follow, he says. I nod. And remember this. I'm not allowed to bet, but if I could, my money would be on you. Truly, I whisper. Truly, Cinna says. He lands down and kisses me on the forehead. Good luck, girl on fire. And then a glass cylinder is lowering around me, breaking our handhold, cutting him off from me. He taps his fingers under his chin, head high. I lift my chin and stand as straight as I can. The cylinder begins to rise. For maybe 15 seconds I'm in darkness, and then I can feel the metal plate pushing me out of the cylinder into open air. For a moment my eyes are dazzled by the bright sunlight, and I'm conscious only of a strong wind with the hopeful smell of pine trees. Then I hear the legendary announcer, Claudius Templesmith, as his voice booms all around me. Ladies and gentlemen, let the 74th Hunger Games begin. And with that being said, it's time for a break. When we come back, we'll see who survives the first 5 minutes of the games. Hey guys, it's Alyson from A Different Point in Time, and it's time for another random recommendation. So, first one I want to give today is a YA contemporary summary book. So I figure with the weather getting warmer, it's a good time to read something like this. is called Save the Date by Morgan Matson, who's a fairly well-known author, but this is if you haven't read any of her books, this is your sign to start doing that now. So I'll read you guys the summary. Charlie's sister is getting married. Everyone is coming home, all her older siblings. It'll be just like it used to be. One last weekend together before her parents sell the house. Charlie doesn't want to think about college next year or things changing. She just wants to make this a perfect weekend. What could go wrong? Well, first the wedding planner quits, then the house alarm won't stop going off. Charlie's biggest crush shows up unannounced. There's a missing tuxedo, an unexpected dog, and a neighbor bent on destruction, not to mention the event planner's assistant, who is surprisingly, distractingly cute. And that's before things get really crazy. In all the chaos, Charlie will learn more than she's ever expected about the family she thought she knew by heart. And she'll realize that sometimes trying to keep everything like it was in the past means missing out on the future. So yeah, that is Save the Date by Morgan Matson. Like I said, it's a fun, summery, contemporary book with some hilarious hijinks and family drama. And also a wedding's happening, so drama always happens around a wedding. So with that being said, let's get back to the episode. And we're back, and the games are about to start. The tributes are all standing on their podiums, and there's a 60-second countdown. If they step off too soon, they'll be blown up instantly. In the center of the field is the giant cornucopia that each tribute is equal distance away from. Spread out around the cornucopia is a bunch of supplies, foods, weapons, and the value of each item decreasing the farther away they are from the cornucopia. Katniss then takes in her surroundings while she still has time to do so. Currently, all the tributes are on a flat, open stretch of ground. Behind the tributes across from Katniss, she can see nothing, meaning that it must be either a steep downward slope or a cliff. To her right, there's a lake, which you can barely see in the movie, and I sometimes forget it's there. And to her left, there are piney woods. That is clearly where Haymitch would want her to go once the gong sounds. But of course, Katniss is still tempted to ignore Haymitch's instruction, since there's good stuff that can help her survive near the cornucopia, especially since anything she doesn't get, someone else will, particularly the careers. And just when we hope that despite being tempted, Katniss will follow Haymitch's instructions, she sees that there's a bow and arrow. And just like that, no hope of her turning and running away from the bloodbath. She starts to think that if she's fast enough, she might be able to get away, and counts on the fact that she doesn't appear to be the most threatening tribute. So she hopes that the careers will go after someone bigger like Thresh first. So Katniss positions herself to run toward the bow and arrows. Then she notices Peta looking at her, and she thinks that he's shaking her head at her, but it's hard to tell with the sun in her eyes. And because of this moment of distraction, Katniss misses her chance, and for a moment her feet shuffle. She's confused about where to go, so she picks up the sheet of plastic that was near her and a loaf of bread. Then she sprints to grab an orange backpack nearby, since at this point she doesn't want to leave with nothing. The boy from 9 reaches the pack at the same time Katniss does, and they briefly fight over it before he coughs up blood on her and falls to the ground. And then that's when Katniss notices the knife in his back. So Clove is now running at Katniss and ready to throw a knife at her, and she never misses. So Katniss does the rational thing and runs away. She also uses the bag to protect her head from the knife, so thank you, Clove, for the knife. It'll come in handy later. When Katniss reaches the edge of the woods, she looks back to see that some of the tributes are still hacking away at each other, and several already lay dead. The rest are running away into the woods or to the void that she saw earlier. So Katniss runs, finally doing what Haymitch said by putting distance between herself and the others. As she keeps walking, she looks for water. At one point, she hears a noise and pulls a knife out to defend herself, but it's only a rabbit. This is a good sign. That means there will be other animals around that she can hunt. By late afternoon, Katniss finally hears a series of cannons go off, signaling the deaths of some of the tributes. Normally a cannon would go off as soon as a tribute dies, but there are always so many deaths during the bloodbath. The game makers hold off doing that until the initial fighting dies down. Katniss counts 11 tributes are now dead, 13 still alive. She won't find out who died until that night when they show the picture of the dead tributes in the night sky, and for a moment she's worried that Peta might be dead. Eventually she stops to rest and goes through the stuff in her pack. She sees a bottle for water, which is empty, rude, a sleeping bag, pack of crackers, dried beef strips, bottle of iodine, a box of wooden matches, small coil of wire, and sunglasses. Katniss also begins to worry that the only source of water in the arena will be the lake near the cornucopia, a place that the careers will definitely guard and it will force tributes into a fight. But then she remembers the rabbits and knows they must have a water source nearby that they use, so she calms down a bit. And as it starts getting dark, Katniss decides that she needs to find a place to sleep and to conceal herself from view. She can hear other creatures nearby and doesn't know if they'll view her as food or not. And plus, some tributes will be out hunting, namely the careers. Before that, though, Katniss uses her wire to set up a snare just in case she can catch a rabbit, but still walks 5 minutes away from it before picking a tree to camp out in. She finds a willow tree just high enough and offers enough concealment. She sets up her sleeping bag in the branch, stuffs her bag inside, and straps herself to the tree as a precaution so she won't accidentally roll over and fall out while she sleeps. As night falls, it gets colder. Katniss is glad that she took the risk to get the backpack, since several tributes might be freezing that night. Then the anthem plays and we learn who the fallen tributes are. Katniss explains to us that the audience will know how each tribute died as they watch on TV from home, but the tributes in the arena don't know, just, who died at the end of each day. The first fallen tribute is the girl from 3. This means that the tributes from 1 and 2 survive since they show the fallen in order of district. Then the boy from 4 is shown, which is a surprise since usually all the careers make it through the end of the first day. Then it shows the boy from 5, both from 6 and 7, the boy from 8, both from 9, and the girl from 10. So Peta's alive. Yay! And Katniss then mentally goes through the list of tributes, trying to figure out who's still alive. 5 career tributes, the girl from 5, whom she's nicknamed Foxface, Thresh and Rue, but she can't remember the rest, so she goes to sleep, vowing to figure it out in the morning. And as she drifts off, she thinks that it's lucky that she doesn't snore. Then a few hours later, Katniss is woken up by a snapping sound. Several hundred yards to her right, someone starts a fire. Katniss can't see who it is, just a pair of hands warming themselves by the fire, and Katniss nearly screams insults at the person for being so stupid. It has been hours after the careers fought it out in the cornucopia. They're now rested, and at this point will be actively hunting the woods for other tributes. Everyone who watches the games knows this. This is what the careers always do. So this person just gave away her position, might as well holding up a sign saying, "Come and get me! I'm right here!" Idiot. And Katniss is stuck now where she is because she can't risk fleeing now that her general location has been given away. And she even contemplates at one point killing this person because they're a hazard. But she doesn't. The sky is still dark, but Katniss can see the first signs of dawn, and she starts to hope that the person's smoke signal may have gone unnoticed. But then she hears several pairs of feet running and knows that the fire starter has been found. The girl cries out, and the careers kill her. Katniss sees them walk into the clearing near her tree, but so far she's still concealed by the darkness, so they don't see her. And I'm gonna read the last bit of the chapter again because significant thing happens. So it starts with one of the careers saying, "Shouldn't we have heard a cannon by now? I'd say yes. Nothing to prevent them from going in immediately, unless she isn't dead. She's dead. I stuck her myself. Then where's the cannon? Someone should go back. Make sure the job's done. Yeah, we don't want to have to track her down twice. I said she's dead." An argument breaks out until one tribute silences the others. "We're wasting time. I'll go finish her and let's move on. I almost fall out of the tree." The voice belongs to Peta. Dun dun dun! What? Peta's joined the careers? The world has ended. Anyway, time for another break, so when we come back, we'll deal with all that. Hey guys, we're back with another random recommendation. So this one isn't a novel, it's a play, and it's a classic. Much Ado About Nothing by William Shakespeare. So everyone knows who Shakespeare is, and this is one of his more underrated, I guess. Like, I feel like people have heard the title, but they don't know the story the way they would know, like, Hamlet or Romeo and Juliet. And this is one of my personal favorites. So Much Ado About Nothing is one of his comedies that has just, enemies to lovers trope with Benedict and Beatrice, some misunderstanding, weddings happen at the end, and it's a really fun show, and I really love the movie with adaptation that they did with Emma Thompson. She was amazing in that, and at the time she was making that because she was playing Beatrice, the main female lead, and she was playing opposite to her husband at the time, which I thought was really funny and cute. So yeah, if you're intimidated by Shakespeare, first of all, you shouldn't be. And he has some really great stories. And if you want to get into Shakespeare without your English teacher ruining it or making it boring, I feel like this is a good place to start. So yeah, with that being said, let's get back into the episode. And we're back, and Ray is currently now snuggled up next to me, so you guys can't see her, but she'll be here with me while I finish recording the episode. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, so it's a good thing Katniss thought to strap herself to that tree because, like me, the first time I read this book, she was so shocked that she lost her balance and would have rolled out of the tree had she not been strapped to it. Right? Except I wasn't in a tree when I read this book. I was sitting securely on my couch, most likely when I did, or in the air chair. I remember reading these books outside my house a lot in the air chairs. But either way, I was not in danger of falling like Katniss was. Anyway, Cato tells Peta to go finish off the girl that he failed to kill. Good job, Cato. By the way, who else out there when they read this book for the first time pronounced his name like Cato until they saw the movie? Because I did. Anyways, as Peta heads back toward the girl, and as he does, Katniss gets a brief look at him in the torchlight and sees that his face is swollen and bruised, a bloody bandage on one arm, and is limping slightly. So clearly he got into some kind of fight. Katniss didn't see him at all during the bloodbath, but it looks like Peta decided to go in there after all, despite him telling her not to. Though the movies show him running away as soon as the gong sounds. That Katniss can forgive. What she can wrap her head around is Peta joining the careers. No one from 12 would ever think of doing such a thing. The careers are the capital lapdogs, universally hated by those from the other districts. And kind of like how Gale has his theory about how the Tesseract system is meant to divide the Seam kids and the town kids in District 12. The career districts and, non-career districts kind of work to the same effect. Like, one group's better off than the other, has more advantages. But, the career districts ultimately are supporting a system that works against them. And that's a whole other complicated thing. Though I do have questions about District 4, because they're an established career district, yet in Catching Fire, they are also one of the districts that we know is rebelling. So it's almost like they're somewhere between regular district and careers. I don't know. Anyway, Katniss overhears the careers talking once Peta's out of earshot. She hears one of them asking why they don't just kill Peta now, and someone says that Peta's handy with a knife and he's the best chance at finding her, meaning Katniss. One of the careers, I'm assuming Cato, thinks that Katniss is simple-minded and probably fell for the romance act, and wants to gag thinking about her spinning in that dress, and wonders how she got the 11. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I think Cato's ego has been bruised. I mean, he's this big, strong guy that people look at and assume he's going to win the games. He's probably been told this his whole life, and he's not only trained to fight with weapons and how to kill, but also how to interview and get the audience to like him. And now here comes this girl from the least popular district completely show him up during like all the pregame stuff. And I know he's salty about the training score because, if Katniss didn't get the 11, then he would have had the top score. And Katniss and Peta become the most memorable tributes at interview night despite all the time Cato took to prep for it. It's like when you spend days studying really hard for an upcoming test and get like a 90 and you're so proud of yourself because you worked really hard for it. Then your friend who didn't even look at his notes until the night before gets like a 98. That's probably how Cato feels about Katniss, because in his mind she hasn't been training like he has, nor has like his level of dedication to the games. So it's driving him nuts that someone he deems as beneath him is doing so well. Anyway, Peta rejoins the group, and now the girl from 8 is definitely dead because we hear a cannon go off as they run off. And once they're gone, Katniss hoists herself back onto the branch and lies there for a moment, digesting everything she just heard. Peta has not only joined the careers, but is actively helping them hunt her. But he hasn't told them how good she is with a bow and arrow, probably holding out on that information in order to stay alive. Then the birds fall silent, and one gives a high-pitched warning call, just like they did in the woods the day Katniss and Gale saw the hovercraft take Lavinia and the boy. And sure enough, one materializes to take the District 8 girl's body, then vanishes. Katniss frees herself from her sleeping bag and climbs down. She knows that once she's touched ground, she'll be guaranteed a close-up since the cameras probably didn't have the best view of her in the tree, and people will want her reaction to what Peta's currently doing. So Katniss decides that she should at least look like she's on top of things when she lands on the ground and gives a knowing smile, giving the audience something to speculate about, make them wonder if this was possibly something she and Peta planned to do all along. Then Katniss decides to check on the snare that she set up the night before, which has a rabbit caught in it. She cleans it, guts it, then uses the dead tribute's fireplace to cook the rabbit, since, if you eat it raw, you risk getting sick. Now Katniss is glad that for the cameras so that sponsors can see that she can hunt and can take care of herself better than the average tribute, though she still needs to find water. As she moves on and keeps hiking, Katniss wonders if what Peta has done will hurt the amount of sponsors they get. Will the audience turn against them now that he's seemingly turned on her? In the end, she decides that it's best, just keep acting like the whole thing amuses her so that it looks like it was planned. But Katniss has a much more pressing concern. She's dehydrating fast. And this whole next part is just Katniss slowly dying from dehydration. And I feel like Suzanne did her research when it came to symptoms of dehydration and what it's like to experience it, especially the detail about her urine being dark brown. And at some point, Katniss finds a patch of berries and decides not to eat them since she's not 100% certain what they are and can't risk it. That night, she strapped herself to a tree again. The night sky shows that it was definitely the girl from 8 who was the one Peta in the careers killed, and she was the only death that day. In the morning, Katniss feels even worse. She thinks about going back to the lake, but knows she won't make it. Hopes for rain, but there's not a cloud in the sky. So her only hope is to keep looking. But then she remembers that Haymitch could send her a water bottle. Surely someone would give her one, and Haymitch has the ability to control when she gets her sponsor gifts. And as more time passes, Haymitch still doesn't send her any water. Katniss begins to worry that something's really wrong. Did they not have any sponsors? Was Haymitch neglecting her? But then she thinks the second one's unlikely, since if he did let her die this way when he could help her, he'd face serious backlash from the audience and from District 12. Even the traders at the Hob might not sell him liquor anymore. And this is when Katniss realizes that by not sending her water, Haymitch is actually sending her a message, the message being that water is really close and she's almost found it. So, with that in mind, Katniss keeps moving. And she also does her best not to look as desperate as she feels for Prim's sake, because she knows her sister will be watching. Eventually she collapses, and just as she's truly about to give up, realizes that she's laying in mud, meaning there's a source of water, like practically right next to her. And sure enough, there's a pond. She gets out the bottle, uses the iodine to purify it, and slowly and carefully drinks the water over the next couple hours. So one thing that Suzanne does really well is just showing us how deadly the games are. I mean, we obviously got that from the bloodbath when the boy from 9 died, and that very easily could have been Katniss. Clove just happened to aim the knife at the boy instead. But I feel like that's the kind of danger we'd expect. Because here Suzanne takes the time to show us the more quote-unquote mundane dangers. They're just as real and deadly. And in the past couple days, Katniss has come very close to death in 2 very different ways. So, yeah, everything in the arena is trying to kill you. Like, there's a reason that there's that joke about how, Harry Potter fans want to go to Hogwarts, Lord of the Rings fans want to go to Middle-earth, and meanwhile, Hunger Games fans are just like, nah, I'm good. Like, I love these characters, this story, and the series, the fandom means so much to me, but there is not enough money in the world to make me want to go to Pan Am. No way could I last playing the Hunger Games. I'd probably be the tribute that enjoys the week of like pre-game stuff by just eating as much good food as possible and then stepping off the podium early because I know that I can't win. Anyway, Katniss goes to sleep, and when she wakes up, there's a giant wall of fire coming at her. And that's how the chapter ends. So with that being said, we've come to the end of the episode. Next time, we will be talking about chapters 13 to 15. Thank you guys so much for listening. Don't forget to follow, subscribe so you know when new episodes come out, and follow on Instagram if you're not already. You can see pictures of books that I mentioned in my bonus episodes. Yeah, I think that's everything I need to say. I hope you guys have a great day / night whenever you're listening. Thank you again, and I will talk to you next time. Bye!